Hello, welcome to today's video. We're going to be looking at the top 10 things you need to consider when you're choosing your wedding venue.
Stick around to the end of this video because we're going to share number one thing you need to consider when choosing your wedding venue.
Let's go.
So our first tip will definitely be how many wedding guests are you inviting?
Yes, definitely. There's no point in going for a venue if you know you've got a large amount of guests. There's no point in going for a venue that you know isn't going to hold that capacity. So best to do your research before you go looking at the venues for that one.
Okay, so guest numbers.
And I guess number two would be season. What season are you looking for?
Yeah, because with season, if you were looking at a marquee, sometimes accessibility isn't great. Sometimes barns don't even open up in the winter, do they? And then look definitely to see if the venue has got a backup plan.
Yeah.
Because obviously, if it were to rain, where do you go inside to hold pictures? Where would you do the confetti? You know, what is the backup plan out of season?
You need to know that your plan B is as strong as your plan
definitely.
A, don't you? Yeah. And three, I think, would be cost. That's really important.
Yeah, I mean, most venues online will have pricing, and then just be mindful that the pricing does change season to season, because I think with new couples, they don't always realise that there is quite a big difference between getting married in February and maybe in July, whether you get married on a Thursday or a Saturday.
Yeah.
But again, if it's a venue that can cater for all year round, then you also could use that to your advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you really need to do your homework on cost as well, because there's nothing worse than getting your heart set on somewhere you've gone to see it and then realise after that it's nowhere near your budget. So yeah, you need to get
and they
should
should have on their website a clear pricing structure for you to see that before you even make your booking.
Yeah. And I guess for me, number four would be location, because I think you really need to consider, is it close to where you live but not where your guests live? So have you got to bring everybody in? So is there a transport issue?
What's the nearest train, plane, automobile?
Yeah.
And also, what's the parking facility like? Yeah. Because again, some city-based venues, there isn't any parking, and then if the event went on until midnight, the local trains might finish. Yeah. Location is definitely one to be considering.
Yeah. And then I think five would probably be packaged. So what is included in the package they're providing, because they're not all the same.
I think package is often quite a minefield for the poor couples, because every venue has a different style. Yeah. But make sure that even if as a couple you're looking at a venue, do your research, really, have a look at, or maybe learn from each one that you go to, but definitely find out what's not included, which could end up being a huge add-on at the end.
Yeah, I think to make that fair comparison against venues, you do need to look at that.
Yeah, I mean, some venues, the accommodation's all included, so that might look at first glance a more expensive venue. But then if you're going to add that on another venue, what is the costing that's implicated there?
Yeah, and I think also venues can sort of present themselves on when you're going to look round, they can bring out everything to make it look amazing, but actually that is all additional to...
what do you get on the day?
What do you actually get on the day, or do I have to add all this in?
And also with packages, look at minimum numbers, because with minimum numbers, sometimes venues will hold you to, say, for example, 100 on a Saturday. And if you don't hit that 100, you might be a couple that haven't got a lot of family or a huge circle of friends nearby. You will still definitely be charged for that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Another thing that you should be asking the venue when you're visiting is number 6. We maybe should be thinking about suppliers.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think with some venues, you have to use their recommended suppliers. There are no outs to that. You have to use the people who are there. You don't get to make your own choices. So you have to have the DJ that comes with the house.
You do?
Yeah. Yeah. And you can't make your own selections. So that's a good question to ask, just to make that clear at the outset, definitely.
And I think with suppliers, top tip would be follow the venue on Instagram, look at what you like from their reels, and then maybe do your own research on what photography you might like the style of, or florist. So number 7, what accommodation does the venue have, or or not, something you should be considering.
Yeah, and I think that kind of links back to point number 4 on location. If you've got all of your guests that are travelling, you kind of want them to stay at the venue with you that night and have a nice breakfast with them the morning after to debrief. So I think that's important to find that out, find out how many rooms they've got, how many people can stay over. And I guess with that, if they haven't got enough space to put up all of your friends and family, are there any other hotels locally that are, you know, close by? That
I mean, a good venue would have that at hand to be able to share with their couple anyway. You know, at the end of the day, a venue should be helping you with this information. So even though we're saying do your research, they should have all this information anyway.
Yeah.
They should be able to help you with that.
Yeah.
So following on from accommodation, number 8, I'm now thinking probably should be accessibility for your guests.
So I'm getting all the tough spelling here.
Yeah, I'm absolutely delighted with that.
So accessibility is a point to consider if you've got guests. Maybe, you know, you've got a granddad in a wheelchair. You need to make sure that it's inclusive for him, that he can access, you know, all areas that you need to.
Yeah. You know, again, barns, towers, you know, are they going to be able to get up to where the ceremony's being held? Are they going to be able to safely get from the car park to where the venue is?
Yeah.
And things like disabled bathrooms, ramps and so on. It's really important that everyone has access to every part of the venue, because if you want everyone, your nearest and dearest, to enjoy your day, they should be able to be there for every part of it.
Yeah, I think it's important, you know, that inclusivity of everyone being there and, you know, not being made to feel different or left out is key.
Yeah, even if you have an outside wedding, this is something really to consider, because unless someone in a wheelchair has got off-road tyres, they might not be able to get to where the grassy area is or where the woodland area is. So, you know, do think about that. Look at who's come in, who you want to be there with you and share your day, and then take that as a question to the venue. How can you accommodate for accessibility?
Yeah, and I think, you know, a good venue should be able to invite that person in advance as well. So if they want to test it to see if they're comfortable, if there's any, you know, arrangements that need to be made to adjust anything, you know, your venue should be able to do that for you as well.
And also that actually goes into accommodation. They should be able to stay here overnight or stay there overnight. And again, all of these questions, ask the venue, ask the questions. They're questions they would have been asked before, and they should have the right answers for you.
Yeah.
So number 9, I would be looking at the cleanliness of the venue. Is it being overused? Has it become a conveyor belt wedding venue? Because, look, let's face it, if there's weddings going on every single day, how can they keep on top of the cleanliness? It's all very well to do an open day. Anywhere in any business can showcase an open day, but what's the venue like on the day? You know, you're never going to see that as a new couple, but you should get an idea of when you're looking around, maybe on your actual planning meeting, you know, just have a look and see, you know, behind the curtains, behind the doors, you know, is it what you want it to look for your wedding day?
Yeah, and I think that what you've said there does lead into number 10, which would be exclusivity.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you're looking at a hotel, it's obviously you're not going to have exclusivity unless you were lucky enough to take out the whole of the hotel and all the rooms. You know, there are some beautiful hotels, they often have spas linked, but it's not going to be yours for the keeping. And then in the morning, is there an exclusive area for you to have breakfast with all your guests? It might not be something that's important to you, but if the exclusivity is important, then maybe a hotel isn't for you, and that's what you should consider when you're looking at all of our top tips. So, as promised at the beginning of the video, our top tip is
priority.
Yeah. So look at our recommendation of things you should be considering and prioritise what's really important to you. Similar to, I guess, buying a car or a house, put your top 3-4 tick lists, the musts, and then you might have to compromise.
Yeah, I think once you've worked out what your priority is, so say, for example, your priority is cost, It might be that you've got, you know, your budget is your budget and that's it. There's no shifting. So with that, seasonality might have to drop down. You might have to make a concession that, you know, you're not going to get that Saturday in the summer. It might be a Thursday in the spring, but it's covered everything else. So, you know, your guests can stay with you. It's in your budget. You know, grandparent might be in a wheelchair, so everything is great in terms of accessibility. So it ticks all of those boxes. And yeah, just work out your priorities and order them from there.
And even things that I've spoken to with couples is guest numbers. Have the nearest and dearest around you maybe for ceremony and meal service. Have an earlier, say 1:30 wedding, and then have the party in the evening and save some good stuff for the evening guests so that the day isn't running away too quickly, but you've got a different part of the day to celebrate different things. So therefore your guest numbers could be cut down slightly, but invite more in the evening.
Yeah. So that was our top 10 tips of things to consider and prioritise when you're choosing your wedding venue.
Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you for our next video.